He had conceived the idea of crossing the entire Antarctic continent. And the expedition which I was to lead had much the same plan. You may be surprised to hear that 1,000 or more were clamoring to join us, but we only needed 16. All were to be specialists, both in their own field and to some extent in others. I had spent 10 years on Antarctic work, both at home and in the field. And it was in the Antarctic that I first thought of the possibility of carrying out the plan which Shackleton had originally conceived. In January 1956, from the ship Theron, we landed an advance party of 8 men, whose job it was to establish a base on the Weddell Sea coast. From there, we planned to make a journey to the Ross Sea via the South Pole, a journey of 2,000 miles. A supporting party of 18 from New Zealand, led by Sir Edmund Hillary, would penetrate the Ross Sea and establish a new base near to Scott's original one. From there, they would lay food and fuel depots 700 miles inland to support us as we traveled from the pole on the last stage of the crossing. What lies under the ice cap? Are there plateaux or mountains? Perhaps there are several land masses. Modern seismic methods could tell us something of this. Then we wanted to know more about the weather, and indeed about the mountains which we see at the surface and the rocks which compose them. These and other questions could only be answered by traveling across the continent on the ground.
The Magadan, with her powerful engine and a hull specially constructed to withstand the enormous pressure of polar ice, could expect to do better than the Endurance. For 7 days she had forced a passage. Then the pack ice thinned, telling of the approaching continent. For on the fringe of the sluggish sea of ice lies a moat of clear water. And beyond the moat, the bastions of Antarctica. Great barriers of ice towering 200 feet, guarding a mysterious continent still in the Ice Age. Magadan, journey's end. To a low skirting of sea ice, her 2,000 horsepower smash a path, carving her own dock. Snowcats, tractors specially designed for snow travel, together with fuel and stores, are unloaded for the base, named after Shackleton. Everything needed to keep men alive in a hostile continent for another 2 years. Over on the Ross Sea coast, Sir Edmund Hillary and his supporting party had already arrived. On both sides there was much to do before the months of winter darkness would bring exploration to a halt. Hillary's party first made use of their dog teams to help shift materials for their base, named after Scott. Only weeks now remained in which to survey routes. From the homing landmark of Mount Erebus, known volcanic feature of Antarctica, Hillary's pilots flew him inland. Mountains and more mountains, perhaps impossible for dog teams and certainly for vehicles. finally, a glacier offering a way in long, easy sweeps up onto the polar plateau, the Skelton Glacier. There they must find their route. From Shackleton Base, 2,000 miles away, Fuchs too was seeking his route to the polar plateau. And all too soon, the obstacles came in view. 40 miles inland and straddling the direct path to the pole, an immense chasm 200 yards across, 30 miles long. Was it the cleavage line of an immense iceberg destined to break off from the continent and float into the South Atlantic? A 150 miles inland, the Thuron Mountains to be crossed or skirted. A massive escarpment holding back the inland ice and falling 4,000 feet in one great cliff. A cliff exposing millions of years of the world's history. Here were found coal seams and the fossil remains of a once luxuriant tropical vegetation. 50 miles on, another range. A strange sight. Mountains buried up to their necks in ice and snow. A colossal solid mass of ice filling valleys thousands of feet deep. They named it the Shackleton Range. Further inland still, Fuchs must set up and stock a station that would serve as his main supply depot on the way to the pole. A desert of ice without a single feature to break its monotony, 300 miles south from Shackleton Base. But at least it was flat and a plane could touch down. Here, 3 men would build the depot and live through winter doing planned scientific work.
We call this dump south ice. In Antarctica, you build your house in a hole. You make use of the drifting snow. Very soon it'll pile up to the roof and help to keep the heat in. In relays from Shackleton, a ton load at a time, they brought in the scientific equipment, the food and fuel, and the prefabricated parts of the hut. To south ice, our pilots, John Lewis and Gordon Haslop, made flight after flight. The base you build will last for many years, even if you only need it for 2. It has to be solid to stand up to blizzards and the terrific weight of drifting snow that will bury it completely in a matter of weeks. Hal Lister, our glaciologist, would make studies to help us know whether the Antarctic ice cap is actually receding. John Stevenson would make examinations of the crystal structure of the ice, evidence of weather for many years past. And Ken Blakelock would carry out the Met observations. Even before the hut was built, his weather reports were being radioed through Shackleton to the world. South ice was always colder than Shackleton. A continent in its ice age allows no concessions to invaders. Everything's against you. And to survive, these 3 had to work on against the weather. There could be no rest or let up. Conditions could only get worse as winter approached. Miles away, at Shackleton, it may have been warmer, but that still didn't make it a picnic, at temperatures going down to 60 below, even to 100 degrees of frost.